folks, welcome back to the channel. Yeah, you guys will have seen from the title, I'm going to be reading for 24 hours. Do need to confirm, this is not going to be me staying awake for 24 hours. Sorry, I don't know what this angle is. I like my bed too much, is essentially what it comes down to. I like my bed too much. You will not find me awake for 24 hours. I like sleeping too much. I have too much respect for my body and my sanity, what tiny little bit of it remains, to stay awake for 24 hours or more. It's not going to happen. So what we're going to do is, this is going to be, I know many booktubers at this point have done this, so I'm not reinventing the wheel or anything. But I have got a timer set on my laptop, set for 24 hours. My laptop will probably I'll just leave it on for a couple of days and we'll basically watch it tick down. So I'm going to do a couple of hours tonight because it's just gone 6 o'clock. I was going to start this earlier today, but I've had a whole bunch of things to do, so we're starting it now. But yeah, it's currently Saturday. I have Sunday off. I also have Monday off. So I'm hoping by the end of Monday, I will have read for a cumulative total of 24 hours. And this is just seeing how much can I actually read in 24 actual hours. And I thought, because I've kind of been wanting to do something like this for a wee while, but I thought this is a great opportunity to pick some relatively easy reads, some relatively quick reads off of my TBR, and make sure that I tick off some of these books and take them off my TBR so they can stop living upstairs. Even if it's just 2 or 3, they can stop living upstairs and they can come down to the bookshelves that you're currently sitting on. And they can live with all the rest of their read friends, their friends who have been read. So yeah, my TBR spreadsheet, which I'll show you guys in a minute, is fully up to date. Am I even recording? I am. Sorry, I had a moment there. I didn't think I was recording. It's been a busy day. Yeah, my spreadsheet is completely fully up to date, so it's going to be hopefully really satisfying ticking some of those numbers off. And yeah, I'm genuinely curious to see how much I'm going to get read. So the first book that we're going to start with is, because I have already picked, I'm not going to show you guys my TBR shelves, at least not right now. I might show you them when I'm picking my next book, we'll see. But the first one I'm going to read is Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This is the only novel that I have not read. This is the only Ali Hazelwood that I have not read. I've not read her novellas, but I have read every other novel she has published up to and including Deep End, which was only published a few weeks ago. But I skipped Check and Mate. I bought it when it came out, like every other Ali Hazelwood. I pre-ordered it and then I just never read it. I have been a little scared of this one in that it's her only YA, but from what I can tell from her reviews, the only thing that really distinguishes this, especially from her earlier STEMinist works, like The Love Hypothesis, Love on the Brain, is that it's just the protagonists are a little bit younger and it's just less spicy. Other than that, it's everything else we love about Ali Hazelwood. So yeah, with that said, I think it should be quite a quick, easy read because all of her books are so incredibly consumable, so I'm quite excited for that. So yeah, we shall now take you, I'm gonna have to do some trigger pokery, show you my spreadsheet, and we'll start the timer and we'll just get reading. Like I say, it's a little after 6. The only thing I have left to do today is eat my dinner. I have some tatties in the oven baking, so they'll be ready in about 40 minutes. And yeah, I've got literally the entire evening left to just sit and read, so I'm hoping to get at least 4 or 5 hours chipped off our timer tonight. Miss Hazelwood has been known to keep me up past my bedtime, so we'll see. We'll see. So I'm not good enough yet at like screen recording or anything. We can literally just film the actual screen. As you can see, my TBR is currently down to 214, which I think is definitely a bigger number than I started the year with. So this goal of getting to sub 200 is not going great. However, I'm fairly certain I have read more than I think I have, because I am very, very sure that I have bought more than 14 books so far this year. I tend to do my most buying right at the start of the year, just because there's always Christmas and birthday vouchers. So the fact that it's only sitting at 214, I think it's actually not that bad. Yeah, well, let's pop up to timer. It's just a Bing timer that I have set to 24 hours, and we're just going to keep this tab open until however long I need it. But without too much more rambling, let's just hit start and see how we get on. Hey, so I have been reading for about an hour. The timer is currently on 22 hours, 58 minutes and 21 seconds, if we want to be precise. I am on page 59. I've just finished part 1. Oh, Miss Hazelwood. Oh. It's gonna be a 5 stars. We know it. We know it. We know I'm going to love this. Did I tell you guys what it was about? I don't think I actually told you guys what Check and Mate is about. If the cover doesn't give it away, it's about chess. We're following our main character, Mallory, and it's all told first person from her. She is 18, she's just graduated from high school, she has no plans to go on to college because she is the sole breadwinner for her family. Her dad passed away a few years ago, her mum is suffering with chronic illness, rheumatoid arthritis I believe it is, pretty bad. She is the breadwinner looking after her mum and her 2 sisters. So just kind of doing literally everything she can to make ends meet. Yeah, I kind of knew she was in financial difficulties. It didn't occur to me that we were going to have essentially child carers in this, and you know, late teens having to bear that burden and look after their families. And that is always themes that get to me. Without fail, there's a really good chance this book's going to make me cry. I'm just saying it. I really like the way she's handling it so far. But yeah, many years, like I think it was like 4 years ago, or up until 4 years ago, Mallory was a bit of a chess prodigy. She did a lot of the local and national, I think, competitions with her dad as her main cheerleader. Her dad was really pushing for her to go pro. It was a bit of a bone of contention in the family, and it was sort of agreed that they'd hold off on going pro until she was a bit older. And her dad has since passed away, and we don't know everything that happened yet, but Mallory now, she hasn't played, when the book begins, she hasn't played chess in over 4 years. She now has a very complicated relationship with chess. But her friend basically begs her and needles her to play this one-off tournament. It was a charity. She was kind of desperate, and she needed one player. She just needed one more player to get it. And by a stroke of just sheer chance, Mallory ends up playing her first game against the reigning world champion, Nolan Sawyer, who is our main character, our main male love interest. Although we've not seen too much of him yet, the focus is definitely on Mallory and her situation. And it just so happens that Mallory wins. And now she is being offered a fellowship in another chess club that is a paid fellowship. And although she absolutely really is not ready to go back into the chess world, she is not ready to deal with the feelings and everything there. Situations being what it is, she kind of doesn't have a choice now. It is... She has no other income at this point, so she needs this position. And that's where we're at. Going forward, I'm not going to tell you anything more about the plot because, spoilers. But I think that's, we are only 60 pages into it, so I think it's not too much of a spoiler to tell you that much. But yeah, I'm absolutely adoring this so far. It's absolutely wonderful. I don't think I'm going to finish it tonight, but I'm definitely going to make a really good chunk in it tonight. So yeah, I just needed to check in and be like, guys, I don't know why I don't know why I put this off. It is just reading like an Ellie Hazelwood. The only difference right now is that our main character is only 18. That is the only thing that's classing it as YA right now. Yeah, loving it. It's good. This was a good book to start with. Okay, I don't know how well this is coming out, but there is 20 hours, 44 minutes, and 17 seconds left on my little 24-hour timer. It's... What time is it? It's just after 10 o'clock, but I need to stop. I need to go to my bed, because I'm on chapter 17, 203 pages in, and quite frankly, if I don't stop now, I'm not going to my bed tonight. I've got about 140 pages, so realistically I could still finish this a little after midnight probably at this rate, but we've already discussed this. I like my bed, I like sleep, I don't like fucking with my sleeping pattern, and that's what Ali is threatening to do because, oh my gosh, okay, so I was nervous going into this book because it's her only YA. I would not call this YA. I would call this new adult, and quite frankly, the only reason I would call it new adult is because... sorry, not got this on a stand or anything. Is because our main character is only 18, going on 19. I think she's about 19 maybe by this point. That's the only reason. Otherwise, this may as well just be adult. The only difference is the lack of spicy scenes. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I think it's working better for me. That makes sense though for me. But yeah, I don't know if it's just because it's like that I'm literally reading it right now. I am absorbed. I have nothing negative to say about this book. Literally nothing negative to say. But I think this might be my favourite Ellie. Do I like this more than Bride? Do I like this more than Love Theoretically? Possibly. I'm really, really enjoying this. This is... it is one of those books where I am kicking myself for having put it off this long. But I'm glad I'm reading it now. I'm so, so glad. But, on that note, I'm going to go get ready for bed, brush my teeth, etc. And yeah, I'll chat to you guys in the morning where we will finish this and then figure out what I'm going to read after it. I pity whatever follows this book because, yeah, whatever I read after this has got a lot to live up to. So initially I was just going to do some reading and then update you guys a little bit, either once I'd finished the book or, whenever. But apparently, despite the fact that I did not shut my laptop down last night, I just let it sleep, the timer decided to reset itself. This is, probably what I get for just using the one that comes up on the search. Maybe later on I'll try and find another one. So what I've done is I've just reset it to 20 hours and 45 minutes because I think it was like 44 minutes, however many seconds left. So a nice round, 20 hours, 45 minutes. And yeah, we're gonna start reading. So I've got my book and I have some, it was a couple nice little 11s as snack. I have some pink jammy Dodgers because I just think it matches the cover perfectly. Yeah. So let's move the book so I can actually hit start and time to start reading again. Yay! Hey, so timer is now at 18:53 seconds, which means I have been reading for just over 5 hours total, and I finished it. This was so good, like so good. I cannot. I don't know why I'm shocked, because it's an Ali Hazelwood, and it was always going to be so good. But yeah, like I said early, when I first picked it up, I was really nervous picking this up just because it's her YA. There's not really anything YA about this other than the age of our characters. Personally, I would not give this to a 13 or 14-year-old. I wouldn't. I would more class this, at most I would class this as new adult. These are characters, they have graduated high school, they are, our two main characters are 18 and 20 respectively. This is just brilliant. This is when Ali takes a step away from the spice, and in a way she took a step back from the romance as well, because although she is known for her STEMish romances, the romance was not the point of this book. At the end of the day, the heart of this book was Mallory just doing absolutely everything she can to keep her family afloat and shouldering burdens and financial and emotional that, maybe she shouldn't have to. But that's just the hand that life has dealt her, and she's doing the best she can, and absolutely wonderful. I absolutely adored this. So yeah. Also, I was fully expecting this to take, I knew this was going to be a quick read, and it's one of the things I'm really enjoying about this sort of experiment thing that I'm doing with the 24 hours of reading, and how much can I read in 24 hours, because I know I'm a quick reader, but it's nice. It's sad, it's weird, I don't know. But I like being able to quantify that, and yeah, this 340-page book just took me just over 5 hours, which I worked out, I'm reading just over a page a minute. That's what the writing is like, the font size, etc. So for these pages, just over a page a minute. And they're not super dense pages, but they're also, that's a bad example. They're not super empty pages either. So yeah. I'm now a little worried that I've set this vlog up to we've started on a high and we can only go downhill from here, but I'm still really happy that I read this. And also it means that, with the exception of the novellas, which I'm probably not going to read anytime soon if I'm perfectly honest, I have nothing left of Ali Hazelwood until Mate comes out, which is in autumn. So now I have to wait. Why did I do this to myself? Maybe that's why I was keeping this, because I knew there was a wait. But yes, anyways, also, after I finished that, I properly got dressed, been upstairs and things, and I have a little tripod for downstairs for my phone, which is usually, it's the tripod that I usually use upstairs, and the stand that I use down here, a friend is actually borrowing, so she can try it out, see if it would work for her. So yeah, this was the first one I started filming with down here many years ago, so kind of relearning how to position it and things here. But whilst I was also upstairs, I was perusing my shelves and thought, what do we start next? Like, how do we move on from this? Because it was wonderful. It was, oh my gosh. I should have kept this one for last. But I thought, let's go with something completely different, because there is no point in picking up anything even close to romantic or anything like that, or contemporary, because I'm going to be sitting comparing it. So let's go something that's just not comparable. So I have gone with The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. And this is basically the story of the side characters. What happens if you're not the main character? So the synopsis is just this. So I'm just going to read it out to you guys, because it'll do a better job than I can describing it. There it goes. Not everyone has to be the chosen one. What if you're not an indie kid fighting zombies or whatever this new thing with the blue lights and the death? What if you're like Mikey, who just wants to graduate before someone blows up the high school? Again. Sometimes you just have to discover how even an ordinary life can be extraordinary. That's all I know. That's all I know about this one. I actually picked this one up two summers ago, I think it was. I was down in Bath and I did the Mr. B's reading spa, which I've definitely spoken about on my channel, and it's involved in a video somewhere. This was one of the books that they recommended to me. It was recommended on the basis that the writing style is just that little bit different. It's a bit more quirky, and the characters are just that bit more quirky. And I think it's definitely leaning more on the sci-fi than the fantasy, or like more of the speculative than the fantasy. So yeah, we're going to give this a shot. Fairly certain it's going to be a super quick read, because look at those margins. Look at that spacing. Comparatively speaking, this one's going to read a lot quicker. That said, I read this one so quickly because I was so immersed and it grabbed me pretty much from the get-go. We don't know if this one will happen or not. But yeah, I'm going to go and make a quick lunch, because it is lunchtime. I did start a little later this morning, so with the reading. So I'm going to make a quick lunch, grab that, and then I'll restart the timer and get started on The Rest of Us Just Live Here. Okay, despite the costume change, it is in fact still the same day. I've been reading for about an hour, 3/4, realistically an hour and a half. A nosebleed did set me back, hence the t-shirt change. But the timer now says 17 hours, 12 minutes and 53 seconds. So say about an hour and a half, and I'm 128 pages in. Definitely reading quicker than the previous book. Here's the thing, I don't know how I feel about this book. I don't know, it's set in this world that is pretty much our world, but every couple of years something big happens that requires a hero. That hero tends to be one or many of what they're currently calling the indie kids, which many years ago were called hipsters. It's very much making fun of like I guess like the typical protagonist you would get in like a CW show from maybe like from like, I don't know, like Vampire Diaries or something. That sort of protagonist is what the indie kid would be. We're following our main character Mikey, just kind of trying to get on with life. We're following sort of like his siblings and his friends group as they're sort of like trying to, just get on with life, figure things out. There's a siren in the background. I don't know if you guys can hear that. It's interesting. I'm trying not to compare it to Check and Mate because nothing's going to compare to Check and Mate. But there are certain comparisons. Our main characters are pretty much the same age. They are literally weeks away from graduating high school. In Check and Mate, we first come... Mallory has only just graduated a couple of months ago, so there's not a huge age gap difference. But these books are very different. There's also... They're both covering slightly more heavier, more serious topics. In this one, Mikey and all his siblings, their dad's an alcoholic, so still living with them, but not a great adult to have in the house. Rarely violent, but still not a good person to be around. Their mum is running for a state senatorship or a senator or something like that. American politics. Our own politics goes over my head, let alone American politics. But yeah, very much more concerned about her image and the politics and everything else and how everything comes across than she is her own kids. Mikey's sister was hospitalized a few years ago, almost died of starvation essentially due to an eating disorder. Mikey himself is showing very extreme signs of OCD. At the moment, they say that their younger sister is the only one who's not fucked up. But that kid's going to have her own problems. She's only 10 and she herself is going to have her own massive problems in the future. And yeah, it's them just sort of like trying to navigate, and they're literally counting down the days until they can get out of this town and get to college and get away from their families. And decline. Why would someone phone me when I'm filming? Like, why would they do that? That's just rude. Okay. It's probably spam, not a number I recognise. But yeah, all of this is set against the backdrop of, once again, something's happening. 2 indie kids now have already died. There's zombie deer. I can't decide how I feel about the narrative structure this way, in that some chapters it's feeling very gimmicky. Other chapters you're like, actually I kind of like where you're going, where, you know, just because you're not the main character doesn't mean you can't be your main character. Does that make sense? You know, we don't all have to be the center of the universe and the one that really makes the massive significant changes to the world, but it doesn't mean that we ourselves are not important, and that the changes that we make and the impact that we make on our own lives and the lives of those around us doesn't mean that they're not significant. So that's definitely like the main point of this book. Yeah, it's definitely more of a thinky book than Check and Mate. Check and Mate was all about the feels. And I do tend to respond more to feely books, than I do to thinky books. But it doesn't mean I'm not appreciating this one. I don't know if any of that made sense, but that's kind of where my brain is at right now. But yeah, like I say, I'm 128 pages on chapter 9. What is interesting is right at the beginning of each chapter, the little section is essentially a summary of what is happening in the main plot before we get back to what's happening with Mike and his friends. definitely not told seriously, these little bits. It's very much, oh, and then they did this and they did this. And then they did this and they did this. It's very much, the author is definitely poking fun at sort of like your typical twee CW show. You know, it's very much. But yeah. I'm gonna go back to reading, I guess. That's all I have to update. It's about 5 o'clock. It took me a wee while to actually get started, like make lunch and things. So I'm enjoying that I'm taking my time throughout this 24 hours and I'm not trying to cram it into a smaller period. I had initially thought that I would do the 24 hours over sort of like 2 days. I think at the rate I'm currently going, I should, I might finish the 24 hours by tomorrow night, but there's a chance I'll nip into, it will, words, what words am I looking for? There's a chance I might finish on Tuesday evening. There was a specific phrase I was going to use, but it ran away. But yeah. Yeah, I think all my plans for the evening do just involve reading a bit more, so dinner is going to be, I made baked ties last night, so it's just going to be another baked tie and some cheese. I very foolishly left my coleslaw out overnight and it split, so it just got binned this morning. So it will just be cheese, but I might chuck some pesto in there. That would work. For lunch I had, and I don't know why I never thought of this before, and it was genius. So I've been in a pizza mood lately, like, but sometimes I don't, like, quite often I don't want an entire pizza and I don't want to be eating pizza for days, which is what happens if I either order a pizza in or if I get a frozen pizza. I gotta get better. I think it was Rachel who said that she sometimes like snaps them in half when they're still frozen and then you only cook half, and I'm like, I gotta get better at just doing that. Like, as soon as I buy a frozen pizza, just immediately snap it in half so that, you know, if I only want half a pizza, I can just have half the pizza, but if I want more, I can just cook more than one half. I gotta get to that habit. But anyway, I was kind of craving that for lunch, but I didn't have any pizza and I was like, oh, I don't want to buy pizza or anything. So I have pita breads. So I cut one open and then I put in a layer of red pepper pesto and some chopped mushrooms and some cheese, and then I just popped them in the oven for like 10-15 minutes, and holy crap, they were so good. So that's definitely gonna become like a regular in my lunch rotations, because it took like 2 minutes to prep and 10 minutes in the oven, so perfect for lunches when I'm working from home. But yeah, I'm definitely rambling, so time to go back and figure out what's happening, because despite everything else that's happening, I'm also really curious about what's happening in the main storyline. And I'm gonna be honest, part of me is a bit more curious about that than I am the main characters. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going back to reading. Talk to you in a bit. So this isn't quite a proper update. I just need to say something. If this book goes where I think it might be going, it's going to go from I don't quite know how I feel about this. It's definitely making me think a bit more, probably sitting in that 3.5 to 4 stars, probably close to the 3.5, straight into a 1 or 2 stars, because if this does, I really, really hope it doesn't. I really, really, really hope the plot does not go where right now I feel like and I think it's going, and it is threatening to go. Because quite frankly, I think it does. I think it's going to ruin the entire point of the book, or at least like what I'm getting from it. It makes it pointless. So yeah, I'm a little frustrated right now because I don't like where it's headed, and I'm really hoping it proves me wrong. But yeah, the timer is currently sitting at, we've just passed the 16-hour mark, so we've been reading 8 hours total, 3 hours just short of on this book. So I'll probably come chat to you guys in an hour or two once I finish this. But dear Lord, please, please don't go where I think you're going. Okay, so it is 10:30. There is 14 hours and 40 minutes left on the timer. I will take a picture and pop it up here because I can't be bothered shoving things about. But I finished. I finished The Rest of Us Just Live Here. Thankfully, it did not do what it was threatening. It did not do what it was teasing. It stuck to its core. It did okay. I think, upon reflection, I'm glad I've read this. It's never going to be a favourite. I'm not sure if I would ever reread it. I think I would have appreciated it more when I was younger because this reads like YA. But a thinky YA, not a substandard YA. No offence to all YAs out there. But I think, I have no idea guys if you know what I mean, but I barely know what I mean. But yeah, this is a book where if I'd read this when I was in my sort of like late teens, early 20s, this would have spoken to me a lot. Ultimately there is themes of getting to know yourself, trusting those around you. We're tackling mental health, sexuality, eating disorders, a whole host of topics that really need to be spoken about, and he does it fairly well-ish here. I had a couple of scribbles, but they're relatively minor. But yeah, ultimately I wish I'd read this a few years ago and hadn't waited until I was in my mid-30s, because this was published like 10 years ago, so I could have read it when I was younger, but that's how we go. Yeah, I don't have too much else to say about it. It's just, yeah, I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars because it's, like I say, it's a decent read and I would absolutely recommend it for a slightly younger reader, not a 35-year-old. Which is not to say that, you know, I'm not old. I refuse to believe at 35 I'm old, but, you know, a non-YA demographic target. I'm not the target demographic for this. I totally just lost my train of thought there, so we're gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna go to bed and we will start a timer again in the morning. I will definitely pop up a picture of the timer there because I'll need to remind myself where we stopped at, because I gotta go out on a limb and say it's gonna reset itself. But that's okay because that means I can shut my laptop down tonight. Okay, I'm gonna shut up and go to bed. Good morning. It is now 20 to 11. I've been up, I've been doing a couple of chores, getting a couple of bits sorted out around the house, and more importantly, picking my next book. So, without any further ado, the third book. I can't believe I'm already in my third book, by the way. This is absolutely mad. But next up, I'm going to be reading One Dark Window. This one, also this is the very late edition, so it's got the nice sprayed edges, but it's also got, if I can get the dust cover off, it has really pretty naked cover. But yeah, this was a fairy look book, so I can't remember exactly when I got it, but this was published in 2022, which means I got it in 2022 at some point. So yeah, I'm liking that. I think both of the previous two books I've also had for at least like a year and a half, 2 years. So I like that I'm kind of using this challenge, this opportunity that I've created for myself to not only chip off books from my TBR, my physical TBR, but to chip off books that have been sitting there for a little while. I'm not reading anything brand new right now. So yeah, also I've picked this one because on Saturday, one of the things I did before I started and kicked this vlog off was I had one of my book clubs, and that was the Inverness Waterstones Sci-Fi Fantasy Book Club. This month we read The Night Circus. Spoiler, it's not a spoiler, but not for me. Really good, really interesting discussions. I can totally understand and see, even before I went into the book club, I can see why people really love this book, but it's never going to be for me. It's just far too atmosphere driven. But we agreed at the end that May's book is going to be One Dark Window. So I figure, why not just dive straight into it? Why not just, you know, use this opportunity that I'm giving myself and just get on with it? Yeah? So that's what we're going to do. I have restarted the timer. We are, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, it's really shiny, but 14 hours and 39 minutes and 11 seconds. I am so very, very, very grateful that I took a picture of that last night, because yeah, I went to put the numbers in and went, where did we get to? Oh man. But can we also appreciate the fact that in 9 hours and 20 minutes, probably even a little bit less when you take into account how many times I will stop the book, go, or have wandered off. Like, I didn't pause the timer anytime I went to like the loo or made a cup of tea or something. I didn't pause the timer then because, quite frankly, especially if I was making a cup of tea, I'd just take the book with me and wait for the kettle to boil. The only times I have been pausing the timer is when I am actively putting the book down to go do something else, like make my dinner or excuse me, my lunch, or do some housework. I think I might go out for a little walk today as long as the rain holds off, just because I'm now aware that I've been, I spent all of yesterday sitting in the house, sitting on my bum. So I kind of feel like I'm feeling a little stiff, I'm not gonna lie, a little stiff today, so I do need to get up and walk about a little bit. So yeah. But despite all of that, in 9 hours and 20 minutes, I have finished 2 books. Now, yes, they were YA, but like I said, Check and Mate, arguably, read the same as an adult. I would put it on the same pacing, accessibility, age range, reading ability, whatever, however you describe it, as sort of like an Emily Henry or a Beth O'Leary, or the Laura Gilmores. And they're all classed as adults, so yeah. The only thing about that was YA was the fact that our main character starts off as 18. That's it. The rest of us have the rest of us just live here. That was definitely YA, and that one obviously read a lot quicker. That one was about 4 hours. It was definitely YA. So yeah, I am going to read that one a bit quicker. Technically, One Dark Window is classed as YA, I think. This came in the YA Fairy Loot box because that's the subscription I had. But I think, from what I can tell from various reviews, this one, it is going to be a bit more like Check and Mate, in that although it's been marketed as YA, I think that's just because it's a romantasy, and that's what we market, especially, not so much right now, but especially sort of like 2-3 years ago, a lot of romantasies were being marketed as YA because that's where they were selling. I actually can't remember too much about what this is about, even though I've watched a couple of reviews over the last few years about it. But from what I can remember about people talking about this, it's not YA. At most, it's new adult, which I absolutely advocate for. I think that is a category that absolutely needs, especially right now with this overlap we have, particularly in romantasy, between young adult and adult. We need that in-between category, and that is new adult. And I think this possibly fits in there. But I've also heard people say, like, no, this is a straight up adult novel. Once again, possibly only driven by the fact that we've got a slightly younger protagonist. But we will see. We will see. I can't remember where I was going with that. I'm curious to see how long this one will take me. I'm gonna estimate between 5 and 6 hours. It is a tiny smidgen bit longer than Check and Mate. Sorry, I keep looking over there because Check and Mate's on the shelf over there. It's just short of 400 pages, whereas the last 2 books have been the 350 mark, give or take. So yeah, I do estimate this is going to take a smidgen longer, so possibly closer to the 6 hours. But yeah, I'll probably do what I've been doing, check in when I'm maybe close to like the 150-ish page mark, so I can actually tell you guys what the book is about because I genuinely cannot remember, other than it is a darker gothic romance, fantasy romance, romantasy, whatever, and that there's a magic system surrounding tarot cards. That's all I've got for you. That is all I have for you. So yeah, once I'm a little bit further in, I will come back, I will update, give you guys an actual idea of what this is about, how I'm feeling, and then we'll take it from there. So I'm gonna go start the timer and start reading, and I'll see you guys in a bit. Hey, so I'm now 120 on page 128, which I think this is when I gave you my mid-ish book update for The Rest of Us Just Live Here. That's a fun coincidence. But yeah, this just feels like the best place to kind of stop telling you my thoughts so far and what I actually think this book is about, because we've kind of just finished the setup, this is kind of the world we live in. This is sort of like who our characters are. Here's kind of an idea of what all the background is. Now we're really going to get into the plot. And yeah, the timer's currently saying 12 hours 36 minutes, so I've been reading for what, just over 2 hours, so that about 120 130 page mark kind of makes sense, realizing I average about 60 pages an hour, so you know, about a page a minute, give or take, which is, yeah, more than I expected, faster than I expected. But yeah, I'm now at this point with the book where I've been enjoying it so far, and it's either going to just continue its momentum, at which point it will end on probably about a 3.5. But I think it's going to, because this has literally just been the build-up, I think because everything's about to start picking up and we're properly going to get into the plot, I actually think this is going to be, I'm anticipating this being like a solid 4-star read, if I'm honest, with the potential to go higher, because I see this One Dark Window, it didn't explode onto the book scene. It didn't, like when it first came out, when I first got my hands on it, because it's a Fairy Loot copy, it just literally landed on my doorstep, which I think it did for quite a few people, obviously, but it wasn't like an instant hit in the way that, say, like Fourth Wing was, or other romanticises, but it has been building up and building up and building up momentum, and I kind of get it. There is something very captivating, I think is the best word for it. So yeah, I'm definitely excited, and I'm absolutely going to finish it today. What is it about? So going into it, all I really knew was a magic system around tarot cards or something like that, and potentially dark gothic fantasy and romance. Was not, and it's kind of all of those things, like absolutely, these are very good descriptors for it, but was not expecting rebellion and heist, which just, I think it's just elevating it. It's just like, oh, okay, yeah, now I'm invested. But it's really interesting because it's not rebellion as in we need to completely overthrow the king, we need to dispose him, we need to get rid of him. We're totally fine with him being there, fine, whatever. Okay, we don't agree with everything he does, and yeah, ideal if we could have someone else, fine. But he's not the worst we could have. But we really disagree with something very specific that he's doing, and so basically they're set in this world where the Shepherd King, way back when, kind of, he didn't quite break the world, but he made a pact with the spirit. He got given these cards. They're called the Provenance cards. There are 70 something in total. There are 12 types of cards. And each type of card has a different quantity. So like there's 12 of the first card, there's 11 of the second card, 10 of the third card, and so on and so forth. But it's set in a world where magic has a price, and the magic for these cards that there is that there's now this mist that is quite dangerous, and it's causing the infection, and a fever that takes hold of people, often quite young. Most of them will die from it. If you get this fever, most die from it, but some survive and are tainted with magic. These magic users are not allowed. They are hunted down, imprisoned in the king's dungeon, and generally probably killed. They're never seen from again. It's very much just kind of accepted that they're killed. They're executed. Our main character is one of the infected, but she lives with her aunt and uncle. Her aunt managed to hide her away when sort of like the physicians came around to inspect, so she managed to survive. But as far as anyone is concerned, she doesn't have magic. She kind of does. The only way to lift this mess and heal the infection is to get the entire deck of Providence cards together. The first king, who was initially given these cards, didn't realise that he needed to essentially keep them, so he gave them away willy-nilly, essentially. And now, most of the cards are about, but a lot of them are unaccounted for. But the best way, pretty much the only way to get these cards in this deck of cards back together is to make sure that you've got one of each. The king is just missing one. Our group are missing 2 or 3. Neither party have, it's called the Twin Elders, which is the only one of its kind. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I don't want to say too much more because, like I say, we've had all of this build up and now we're getting into plot-wise. I'm kind of intrigued. We've got a couple of, it has a very fairy tale retelling-esque feeling, but nothing very, I don't think it's, I'm going to have to look into it. I don't think it's any specific fairy tale retelling, and if it is, then there's hints of Cinderella, there's hints of Beauty and the Beast, but I don't think it's specifically a fairy tale retelling. It just has that kind of feel to it, which is what I prefer. I'm not a massive fan of straight up retellings, which is something I've kind of come to realise. So it's working. It's definitely got that sort of like dark gothic atmosphere going to it, sort of like with the mist and everything. Yeah. I think we know, I'm fairly certain I know who the love interest is going to be, because this is a fantasy romance and it's your standard tall, dark and brooding. Can't really go wrong with that, let's face it. Nothing extraordinary there. I think our main character is, she's this interesting blend of, sometimes I'm like, yes, this makes sense. You know, lie through your teeth in this situation. Absolutely do not trust these people. And then sometimes I'm like, why are you just straight up telling them these? Like, girl, like, seriously, come on. So in some ways, she is really naive at times, and in others makes a bit more sense. So I think I'm still getting that balance. But I'm hoping that sort of like, dare I say, balances out. I hope it improves as the book goes on. Yeah, but that's where we're at with One Dark Window. Enjoying it so far. Definitely enjoying. Excited and keen to get back to it. So that's what I'm going to go do. And I'll chat to you guys once I've finished it, probably. I finished. Okay. When I say finished, that I finished it literally like less than 30 seconds ago. Immediately put the camera on to be like, oh my god, I have to talk about this. And I'm like, I actually... Wow. Yeah. Gotta process that ending. Holy crap, do we need to process that ending? The whole point of this sort of like 24 hours of reading was to chip damage at my TBR, not add to it, and now I very, very, very much need to get my hands on book 2. Because this is book 1 of a duology. I think it's a duology. I hope it's a duology, because that means I get a conclusion in the next book, which is already out. Yeah. I will try and see if my library has it first to prevent me from buying it. And then I'll maybe like, if I think that the second book is worth buying, which if it's as good as this one, it will be. But I have heard sort of like a couple of folks say that the second one didn't quite live up. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed this. I want to say more than I was expecting, but I don't know how much I was expecting to enjoy it. But yeah, it was not what I expected going in. A lot more plot than I thought there was going to be. Yeah, wow, that has properly left me reeling a little bit. Yeah. I'm really struggling for words other than like, holy crap, that was a read. Yeah. Wow. Just wow. I don't know what to rate it. I don't know, 4.5. I don't quite think it's a 5-star. It's not like, holy crap, this is the best, like, this is a new favourite. I don't want to say like, I can't give it 5 stars because holy crap, this is the best thing I've ever read, because I give 5 stars really easily and I'm unashamed about that. I don't quite think it's 5 stars. But it's definitely more than a 4-star. So we'll give it a 4.5. And gosh, yeah. Just like last night, just because my laptop's over there and I can't be bothered reaching for it now. So yeah, just like last night, I will pop a picture up of the timer. It's 9 hours and 1 minute is what's left on. So I think, and I would need to double check the clips, and I'll definitely notice when I'm editing this all together. God help me with that. But I think when I started this, I estimated I would get to maybe 3 books. I was like, I can comfortably finish 2 books in the 24 hours, and I fully expected to be partway through the 3rd book, but I've just finished the 3rd book, and I've still got 9 hours left. Apparently when you give yourself 24 literal hours of reading, you get a lot more read than you expect. That or I read quicker than I thought I did. I mean, I knew I was a pretty quick reader, but oofed. Yeah. So I think we've been at, what were we at when we started this morning? Is it 14 hours and 14 hours 30? 14 hours 40, something like that? And we're now at 9 hours, so you're gonna say this one took about 5.5 hours, and it's just over, it's 392 pages. So just short of 400 pages. A 350 page book was taking me about 5 hours. So yeah, I read, 60 to 70 pages an hour, which, that's decent. And I'm fairly certain I'm taking, I don't skim read. I do want to make that perfectly clear. I do not skim read. I can't skim read. I've tried it once or twice and went, this is horrible and I actually don't see the point. If you are at the point where you are skim reading something, that means you're either literally reading for the sake of ticking that book off the list and to get as much as you can read, at which point, why are you even bothering? Or you're really not enjoying it and you just wanting to get through it, at which point, put the book down, pick something else up. So yeah, I don't skim read. I do tend to read all of the words. So yeah, I'm giving myself a massive pat on the back. My reading speed, it all comes down to practice, guys. It all comes down to practice. Just keep reading. But yeah, I started this on Saturday night. It is now Monday night. I do have to go to work tomorrow. I have to go back to work, which means I will not be able to continue this at quite the same rate. I have to admit, I thought I would get all 24 hours done in the sort of 2.5, 3 days. But I am glad I've taken that bit more time. Basically, any time that I have gotten up and walked away from the book for more than sort of 2 or 3 minutes, I have paused the timer. So when I say I'm doing 24 hours of reading, I am literally doing 24 hours of reading. Excuse me. When I went out on my walk earlier, obviously I paused it when I went out on my walk earlier. When I'm making my lunch, when I'm making my dinner, I'm pausing it. When I'm standing up to pace for 5-10 minutes to figure out what, process what I just read, I'm pausing there as well. And yeah, I have been taking reading breaks because I think reading for that much, even if it is something you really enjoy, it's taxing on the brain, let's put it that way, and I don't necessarily think it's healthy. So I have been taking breaks, and it's also, rest your eyes, right? So that is why, even though I started at 10:30 this morning, it's now approaching 9:30, and I've read for just short of 6 hours. So yeah, realistically, I could have gotten more done, but I'm glad I'm doing it this way because it means I'm still enjoying and appreciating the books I'm reading. And I think if I was just reading for the sake of reading, I'm trying to do as much as I could and get as much of this 24 hours done in a short period of time, I wouldn't be appreciating the books and I wouldn't be getting the enjoyment. And if that was the case, then why the hell am I doing this to myself? Because that's not fun. So yeah, expect the last 9 hours. I am going to continue chipping away at this. This is my main thing right now. But I am back to work tomorrow, so I will maybe do an hour or two tomorrow evening, and I'll just do a couple hours each evening until we get there. So yeah, I think earlier I was being conservative and was oh, I might have to push it over, drag it over. I still don't know that phrase that I want to use. No, I keep doing this like it's gonna help, and it's not. But yeah, I did think conservatively, it's like, oh, you know, I might finish up on Tuesday. Realistically, we're looking at Thursday or Friday at this point, and it is basically going to be a week-long thing, 24 hours across a week. But I just think that makes more sense, and it's definitely a healthier way to do it. For me, anyway. I can only speak for myself. If you are someone who wants to do this and you're like, yeah, that's no problem, I could do that in like 2 or 3 days. Hell, I could stay awake for 24 hours. Kudos to you, but this is how it works for me. Because I think if I try to do more, then it's going to become a chore, and that's going to start affecting my mental health, and we don't do that. We protect those things. So yeah, I am absolutely rambling now, which means that I need to go and just sit and stare into the middle distance whilst I process what the hell this end. By the way, guys, the ending! The hell! Yeah. Yeah. Definitely on the... Definitely not adult. Not young adult. Definitely on the new adult end of the spectrum, but quite frankly, personally, if I were in a bookstore or a library, if I ran a bookstore or was a librarian, I would be shelving this in adult. No ifs, no buts. And it's not because of the spicy content, but just because of everything else that went on here. This is going into adult. This is an adult book. But yeah, I am absolutely rambling, which means I need to go and just like chill and let my brain process what I've just put it through. And yeah, I don't know what I'm reading next. On Saturday night, I had an idea. I knew I was going to start with Checking Mate, and I knew I was going to pick this one up. The Rest of Us Just Live Here was kind of a spur of the moment, which is what I absolutely want. I have no idea what my next one is going to be, so the next time we chat, I will take you guys upstairs and I will show you guys my TBR, and we'll figure it out from there. But yeah, I'll see you in the next clip. Hey, coming at you with just a hopefully relatively quick update, because I don't have too much to update. I have not read since I last spoke to you guys. But I've been to work, I'm back, I'm home, I am changed into my comfy, as you can see, and yeah, I've still got a couple of bits and bobs I need to do tonight. It's now 6:30. I haven't actually made my dinner yet. I had to do a food shop after work and things. But when I got home, I sat and I stared at my TBR shelves for a decent length of time. I forgot to take you guys with me, and it's honestly just as well, because I sat there going, I don't know what to start next. It's been a very long time since I've read this intensively. It's been an exceptionally long time since I have finished as many books as I have in like 3 books in 3 days, essentially. That's kind of mad. I apologise if you can hear the seagull on my roof. He is lonely and wants a friend. And he's shouting at the world about it. It's annoying. But yeah, like I was saying, I was sitting staring at my shelf going, I don't know what to read. I don't know. This is one of the reasons I want to get my TBR down. This is why, like, 200 plus books is too much. There was way too much choice. So I did a very smart thing. I think it was very smart. I keep track of my TBR on my spreadsheet. You've caught a glimpse of that already. I sent a link of that spreadsheet to 2 very good friends of mine, Rachel and Laura. And I said to them, as long as the book is under 500 pages, because I don't want to attempt something super chunky in the last half of this challenge, but as long as the book is under 500 pages, pick something off the physical TBR tab. And they showed up. They did good. So Rachel got in there first, so we're going to start with her pick first. But I figured because there's 9 hours left, chances are, even if they pick something adult, chances are it's not going to take me 9 hours to finish. I've come to realise that I apparently read quite quickly. So yeah, Rachel got in there first, and then Laura picked another one, and I think 2 books is perfect for finishing this off. So the first one, it is going to be Till Death Do Us Part. This is one of my newer books. I only bought it this year. I bought this one with Christmas birthday money. And this is basically about a retired adventurer, I believe. About a year ago, he hung up his axe and he was settling into his best ultimate cottagecore life until cue present day, and some asshole has just gone and kidnapped his husband. So now he's a little bit grumpy, I think, and has to go and save his husband. And that's all I know. I probably did know more about this when I bought it, but that's all I can remember. I think it's going to be quite a fun romp. I'm quite excited for this one. Also, it's got a really, really pretty cover. I'm hesitant between this one or One Dark Window, but I think this might be the prettiest cover that we've read in this vlog. Maybe? So we'll see. It is just over 340 pages, which seems to be the theme for this vlog. So yeah, we're going to start with that one. And then once I finish this, I'm going to be reading Vicious by V.E. Schwab. Vicious I bought about 1.5 years ago. I bought it with vouchers that I got from my old team when I quit the lab and I moved into the modelling team. As part of my leaving present, there was a very generous Waterstones voucher. So I went and had a bit of a spending splurge, and one of the books that I bought was Vicious. I've only read 2 V.E. Schwabs prior to this. I read The Near Witch, which was her YA debut. It was a near miss for me. Personally, it didn't stick the landing. I barely stuck the beginning. I was bored throughout it. It was very meh. But I've also read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I absolutely loved. It was wonderful. So very curious to see where Vicious ends up. I can't really remember anything about this one either. Are we seeing a trend? I buy books, they languish on my shelves to the point that I have no idea what they're about. This is another reason why we need to get through it so that I can actually remember what I have on my shelves and what they're about. It has something to do with villains and heroes, possibly, and that villains and heroes being created or choosing paths. I'm honestly clutching at straws. I do not know. But yeah, this is what we're going to be reading after Till Death Do Us Part. So I will restart the timer. I'm just going to put it to around 9 hours and 2 minutes because looking at the picture I took of the timer last night, there was less than 0.1 of a second off the 2 minutes. So I'm giving myself less than a second extra. Ooh. But yeah, I'll pop that back on the timer, and once I've made my dinner, I really need to go and eat something. It's been such a day. Probably, it's not been a bad day, but it's just been a very busy, brain heavy day. So I think go make some dinner. I might play a bit of Infinity Nikki just for half an hour or so, just to get my dailies in and things, and then spend the rest of the evening reading. And I'll probably check in just before I go to bed and let you guys know how far I've gotten. I'm curious to see how much I will actually get read on a weeknight, but we'll see. Chat to you in a bit. Hey, so I lied to you guys unintentionally, but I did lie to you guys in my last update. On Tuesday night I told you I was going to read some more after I had done a couple of bits and bobs, and I kind of just didn't. And then on Wednesday night I didn't read any. I was going to, again, had great intentions, but then a friend phoned and then my brother phoned, and it was like 8:30, approaching 9. I was just like, no. And quite frankly, by Thursday and Friday my brain was just tired. I tend to do, probably realistically through the week, I do my least amount of reading at the end of the week because it's really, this week has really highlighted when I've been like actively wanting to, like I say actively wanting to read, but when I've been like, oh no, I need to read for the video, it has really highlighted that I don't read a lot towards the end of the week because, oh, I'm guessing at this point, but I think it's mostly because I have a very thinky job now. As in, I have to use my brain. I have to like actively be thinking about what I'm doing. In my previous role, I worked in routine science, and I worked there long enough that I did 90% of my job on autopilot. So yeah, by the time I get to the end of the week, my brain's getting a little bit tired. And that's usually when I do a bit more zoning out. I'm more likely to watch like a drama. It's when I do my K-drama watching, to be honest. So yeah. So by the time we got to Thursday night, I was like, okay, let's just accept that we are not reading anything, and we'll finish the video at the weekend. And that's exactly what we've done. I kind of gave myself yesterday off as well. Today is now Sunday. But tomorrow's Easter Monday, so I also have tomorrow off. So if I don't finish filming today, which I don't think I will, I think I'm gonna like finish this one book and then last of it tomorrow. That's just how it goes. And ultimately it makes no difference to any of you guys watching this, because this video will go up when it goes up. It doesn't actually matter how long it takes to film it. Right? So no pressure. Also, I'm like retrospectively, like thinking back, I'm like, I'm really glad I've taken the extra like days so I can just sit and think and just, yeah. Marinate is not the right word, but like savor the books that I read last weekend. Because yeah, I have already read 3 books for this challenge, and 3 books in 3 days. That's intense. Especially when I generally average sort of like, I don't know, right now I'm averaging I think like 5 or 6 books a month. I was a lot more reading in a much shorter period of time than what my brain normally does. So yeah. All that to say, it is now Sunday night, Sunday evening, should I say. I think it's like just after 6, I think. And I have been doing a bit of reading on and off. Also, I've been doing like housework and stuff as well. And just being chill and taking my time. And I'm on a page 168, so I am halfway through Till Death Do Us Part, because I am going to continue with the 2 books that Laura and Rachel chose. So this was Rachel's pick. Oh my lord, guys. Oh my god. I'm in love with this book. It is so cute. It is so adorable. It is everything I love. It is, it's actually wonderful. So yeah, it is, I can't remember if I told you what it was actually about. But it's, and if I have, forgive the repetition. But it's about Logan, who up until about a year ago was an adventurer, but he retired and he has settled down into living his best cottagecore life with his husband Pi, which is just a wonderful name for a husband, I think. It's a wonderful name for anyone, let alone a husband, but you know what I mean. And Pi is a bard. What I love is that it kicks off from like literally page 1. It's like, and the plot gets going. There's no ramble, there's no lead up. It's not like setting the scene. It's just like, yep, we're getting into there. But yeah, by basically, I think by like page 15 or something, Pi's gone. Pi's gone missing. We think at this point Pi has possibly been kidnapped / tried to fake his death, didn't quite work. So Logan is now on a hunt and on a mission to find his husband. Along the way, he has picked up, it's literally, it's taking off so many of the tropes, but doing it so beautifully. So this is, like, we've got, for our romance tropes, we've got our grumpy sunshine, we've got our opposites attract, and then for the fantasy side, we have, gosh, what do we have? So many. We've got the reluctant hero, we've got gather the troops together, get the gang together. We've got all of the various archetypes. So we've got Logan, who is our hero. He's very reluctant hero. But he's our fighter, possibly berserker. He's our big guy with the axe. He's our tank. We have picked up a necromancer because we need a spell. We need a spell person. We've picked up, he's not quite a farm boy, but we have got essentially we've picked up the sweet, naive, young, enthusiastic farm boy, and he happens to be a unicorn trainer. We have a unicorn called Freddy. And we also have the Ophelia, who is a ghost, and she happens to be Logan's ex-wife. She left him. It's the banter, the snark amongst all of them right now is just, it's amazing. It's brilliant. And yeah, we're on a mission to find Pi and possibly stop the king, because the king is looking for the chalice of something. I can't remember what they call it, but he's basically looking for this like chalice thing. That will grant him the ability to create bodies. So the necromancy that we're seeing involves sort of like raising skeletons. This would give them actual bodies. That's all we got so far. But yeah. It's so cute. It is so sweet. I am fully on board with the romance between Logan and Pi, despite the fact that Pi has been on page for all of 10-15 pages. A little bit more than that now, but yeah, you literally see them interacting for a chapter, and then Pi gets kidnapped. But despite the fact that we're not seeing them interact on page regularly, chapter by chapter, we're still 100% rooting for them, because they are just so well suited and so perfect for each other. And Logan is absolutely going to burn the world for Pi. Like, I'm not sure we'll get it, but I am, like, if we did, I would not be surprised if Logan utters the lines, "Who hurt you?" You know when the villain or someone is like, "Who hurt you?" Like, that is Logan, and it's just going to be perfect, and it's going to be brilliant. And yeah, interspersed, I'm only on chapter 13, but interspersed between all of the chapters, not between every single one, we've had like 3 or 4 of them at this point, we're getting these little interludes, and it's showing how Logan and Pi met, and sort of like how they became essentially strangers, this adventurer who just wants to get on with his job, and this bard who is just so incredibly charismatic and doesn't shut up. It's very much the introvert, the extrovert here. How they went from that to, presumably we will figure out how they came to be living their best cottagecore life on basically the edge of civilization. So yeah, aware that I am very much rambling about this, but it's just so cute, and it is just so wonderful, and it's just wonderful. It is. Sandy Mangdana described it as an absolute bear hug of a book. I just can't read the writing, and it is absolutely a bear hug of a book. It is just this is gonna sound like such a really weird description and a weird comp, but if you took the D&D movie and combined it with a Hallmark movie, so all the wonderful campy silliness of the D&D movie plus kind of half the plot, and then combined it with just the wholesome, touching, sweethearted loveliness of a Hallmark movie, that's this book. That is Till Death Do Us Part. It's like it's a mashup that should not work, but it is working so well. Yeah, I thought One Dark Window was going to be a hard one to beat for this. Not that it's a competition of the books that I'm reading for this, because every book gets read on its own merit and judged by itself. But if it were, Initially, I thought Check and Mate would be a really hard one to beat. The rest of us just live here. Sadly, it was fine. And then I thought One Dark Window would be quite a hard one to beat, especially on sort of like the fantasy romance part. Now I'm thinking Till Death Do Us Part is going to be a hard one. So, presumably tomorrow when I start Vicious, it's got a lot to live up to. Which is why I'll finish this one tonight and I will not start this one until tomorrow, because it'll give me sort of like that overnight to let this one sit a little bit and this one hopefully be able to start on its own merit. Yeah, anyway, I'm gonna go make a very quick dinner. I'm just gonna make, I think Billy's just gonna do some pasta. I've got like a tomato and chili sauce and chuck some cheese on top. Super quick, so that I can get back to this, because yeah, I didn't start this until a couple hours ago, till like mid-afternoon, and I should have started it first thing this morning, because then I'd be finished and I'd be loving it in all of its glory. But oh well, I'll see you guys in the next update. Hi. Yep, it's the next morning. I finished it. I finished it last night, and thank you, Rachel, for picking this one, because this was an absolute joy to read from cover to cover. At no point was I ever bored. At no point reading this was I ever... It never felt like a chore. Books rarely feel like a chore, to be fair. But this was just a wonderful, wonderful read. And I, as far as I can tell, no one's talking about this book. And I feel like everyone should be talking about this book. Because it's just wonderful. It is just wonderful. And I do wonder that maybe it's because we're getting a bit saturated with the cozy fantasies. I would argue so. Pick it up anyway. It's just... yeah. I can't really say too much more about it, because last time I checked in we were halfway through. I was halfway through the book. So anything I say at this point feels like I'm getting way too much into spoiler territory, because everything I want to talk about now, it's pure spoiler. So I can't. So it's probably quite a quick update on where I got to with this one. I finished it. I loved it. The whole point of this vlog is chipping off books off my physical TBR. And here I am going... I'm fairly certain the author has written one more book. I can't remember what, off the top of my head, what it's called. I think the cover's like more blue-green orientated as opposed to the purples. With One Dark Window, I had a similar reaction with One Dark Window. The joy of that one is that my library has Two Twisted Crowns. I have put a reservation in for it. I'm third in the queue, so it must be quite it's still quite popular. This one is niche enough and new enough and not popular enough that my library, I haven't checked, but I am not holding my breath, and I'm not holding any hope that my library's going to have the other book. So if I want to read it, I'm going to have to purchase it, either physically or on my Kindle. And I think technically the Kindle is cheaper, but I want to read it physically because I prefer reading physically. And these are definitely books that I would go back to time and time again. I'm fairly... obviously, recency bias, I did only finish it last night, but I can see this becoming a comfort read because it is just so... I'm not sure wholesome is the right word, but it is just, like Sandy Mandana said, it's an absolute bear hug of a book. It is wonderful. I think especially if you're in a reading slump and if you're just feeling a bit down, if you've had a bit of a tough time and you just need something joyful and wonderful in your life, pick this up, because it is a ragtag team. By the end, it is a ragtag team of heroes, you know, going out there, doing what they have to do, fighting and puzzling their way through this mission and just trying to make the best of it. But they're there and they're supporting each other and they are learning. There's some really good character development in this that was just, it was absolutely wonderful. And it's showing that even... And then what I really like is our protagonist, he's in his 40s, I think Logan is. Which, you know, for a fantasy protagonist, that's pretty darn old. But it's showing that even once you're in that age... Sorry, my car's out there. Which is normal. That's normal. I honestly thought for a minute I thought I saw it moving. And I'm like, no, I definitely left her parked in reverse. I've got a very steep hill that's like this steep. My eyes are playing tricks on me. It's fine. What was I saying? What was I saying? I can't remember. Go out and read this book. If you know me personally, feel free to borrow it. But I think everyone should go out and read this book because it was just absolutely wonderful. But in terms of timer, you can tell I've given up showing you the timer physically because it's just awkward like holding my laptop up. But I ended on 4 hours and 38 minutes, which means that this book took me about 5.5 hours, which this is feeling pretty standard at this point, isn't it? So I've got 4 hours and 38 minutes left of reading for the specific vlog. I'm not convinced I'm going to get this one finished, but I think we're going to keep... I'd estimate I'm going to be about there-ish. So there's a really good chance that the 24 hours of reading is going to become closer to 25 hours of reading, because we're not going to end in the middle of a book, are we? Not... Like, if I'm only this far, if I was only like going to be this far in, I'd end there, but knowing that like I'm going to be pretty close to the end, we won't finish this vlog mid-book. We will finish the book, but I will basically do what I've been doing, pause probably about there-ish, or depending on where it feels best with the story, so I can give you an update how I'm feeling about the book halfway through without getting into spoiler territory, and I'll then chat to you guys once the timer goes off, and then probably have a final wrap up once I finish the book and just chatting about this in general. So, take a deep breath, Amy. With all of that said, I'm going to read for an hour or so, an hour or two, then maybe grab some lunch, and yeah, chat to you in a bit. Okay, hey, so, checking in a little earlier than I anticipated, mostly because Maisie's being a pain in the arse and has been demanding attention. So for the last sort of like half an hour, I have not managed to read. I have been fussing my very, very fussy cat. But she's had the fusses. Her trays have been cleaned 2 days early. 2 days early! Because she was making the "if you don't clean them, I will poop outside them" noises. Which, you know, we obey those noises. She uses them. But, and of course, you know, did nothing afterwards. Litter trays now remain untouched because she was just wanting attention. But she's had treats. She has a very full bowl of food. She has fresh water. She gets fresh water every day. That's not a problem. But still, apparently I'm not taking good enough care of her. According to my cat, I'm a very bad cat mum right now. I don't know what I've done to upset her. I'm reading and ignoring her. That's basically what it is. Despite the fact that she has spent literally all day upstairs. I went to Tesco's and back and she didn't even notice. This is the joy of being a cat mum. So yeah, I am updating you a little earlier than I anticipated. I'm on page 60... I just finished that section, so I'm on page 69. I'm also updating you mid-chapter, which... no. This is bothering me. I'm not a person who stops mid-chapter. I will keep going. But we're fine. The timer is currently reading 3 hours, 17 minutes and 0 seconds. Mostly because that's where the cat stopped it. She was even on the keyboard pressing buttons. She managed to start the screen record at one point. I don't know. I know my laptop has screen record capabilities, I've just not played with it yet. But, oh well, there you go. So yeah. Mildly frazzled Amy. I've just put some dinner in the oven, so thought I should update you guys whilst I'm doing that, do all of that, so that, you know, I can maybe just get a good solid 3 hours reading once I've done that. But yeah, like I say, 69 pages in. Enjoying it so far. Don't know what I was expecting, but it's good. Initially, the first sort of 20 or so pages, I was a bit like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. I was racking my brain going, fuck, I'm gonna have to... Okay, it's fine. I've got some really short books on my shelves upstairs. I'll just get a sub 200. We'll see what happens. Cause yeah, I was... I did not think I was gonna enjoy this. The first 20 pages or so, it's very much... I had no clue what was going on, other than the fact that we were following the same character. I didn't know what was going on. I had no clue. It's multi-timeline. This is not one constant timeline. This is a lot of jumping back and forth between now and the past. And I was kind of worried that it was going to be literally all over the place. Thankfully, it's not, and it is actually making sense. But have I told you guys what this is about? Probably not, because I kind of couldn't really remember what it was about going in, other than it was a bit darker. And oh, it is a bit darker. This is, I think, of all 5 books that I've read for this project, challenge, whatever we're calling it at this point, this has been the one. This is definitely the darkest. So we are following... Specifically, we're following Victor, but it is a story basically in uni. Victor and his friend Eli were working on a project on a thesis to see if they could create extraordinary people, basically superheroes. And then something goes wrong. Something happens, we don't know what yet. And in the future, so basically, this is a really hard one because the dual timeline, I want to jump back and forth. But basically the book opens with Victor And the book opens, the first chapter is yesterday. And it is Victor and his companion, I can't remember her name off the top of my head right now. They are digging up a grave. Because it will get Eli's attention. So initially you're like, okay, interesting, where are we going here? And then we jump 10 years into the past, where Victor and Eli are at university and they're having to declare their thesis, and they basically end up working on a thesis together to try and see if they can figure out the formula that creates these extraordinary humans, basically superheroes, because in this world they do exist, but they're seemingly random. There's no no obvious evolutionary cause for how they come about. So they're looking into that. What I'm really finding interesting is that these two books, night and day. So filled with joy and light and hopeful. Dark. This is a super villain origin story, right? I think I'm really enjoying that, actually. Which is, yeah. This is taking a lot of like the superhero tropes and just completely flipping them on their head. But despite the fact that these two are very, very different books, what's absolutely fascinating me is, and it is pure coincidence because I didn't pick these, Laura and Rachel picked these and they picked them independently. I gave them both access to my spreadsheet and they both picked a title. And given that they both came back with their titles like pretty much within 5 minutes of me asking them to do it, I know there was no collaboration there. Okay? Other than like seeing what each other picked. But in this one, because we've also got dual time, like they're both dual timeline, and they both follow two men and their evolving relationship. But where one is, we're going back into the past to see how they came from strangers to tolerating to, you know, opposites attract and eventually married. In this one, we're going from roommates, possibly best friends, to, as we're traveling, as we're working through this past timeline, we're going to eventually, in theory, figure out what happened, because right now, they're not friends. Victor has spent the last 10 years in prison, and my suspicion right now is that Eli had something to do with that. But they are definitely not friends, and not Eli. Victor is currently out for revenge against Eli. So that's been a friendship, a complete breakdown. So I'm really loving like the almost dichotomy here, where it's this same narrative device, the same structural device, is being used to show almost like two sides of a coin there. So yeah, really enjoying that. Do have to say thank you to Laura for picking this one, because unlike Till Death Do Us Part, which I would have picked up, I think, fairly soon, I have no clue when I would have ended up picking this one up. I genuinely don't know when I would have picked this one up. So yeah. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. I'm not sure I'm gonna finish it in, like, I'm not gonna finish this in 3 hours, so I'm not nearly as far through it as I thought I would be, like an hour and a half in. It is definitely much slower read. It's definitely one where you have to just take a little bit more time and puzzle your way through it. Where you could argue that all 4 of the previous books in this video were almost like popcorn books. They're very easy, very consumable. This one is just taking that wee bit more brain power. It takes just that little bit more to digest, and, you know, gotta pay a bit more attention to what's happening. So yeah, currently undecided if I'm going to stop this vlog mid-book or... No, we won't. We'll figure out when the timer goes off. We'll see how far along that is, and then I'll give you a last update when I do eventually finish the book. Which, you know, if it's not tonight, it will be tomorrow. But with that, the oven is probably going to go off soon, and I would actually quite like to get back to reading. Maisie seems to have settled down. I had a feeling that once I started chatting to the camera, she would scamper because she doesn't like being on camera. Even my camera roll doesn't have a huge amount of pictures of her. I mean, it has a certain amount because, you know, I'm still a cat mum, but yeah, the minute the phone is even remotely pointed in her direction, she's like, no, I'm out. So, yeah, with all of that said, once again, I'm going to take a breath because I am rambling on at a rate of knots. At least that's certainly what it feels like. And I'll see you guys in the next clip. Okay. Well, we made it to 24 hours. The alarm has just gone off. Timer's now saying it's 00:00:00. Oh. As predicted, I have not finished Vicious yet, but, you know, so close. I'm on page 261, and yeah, I've got like 80 pages left. So I'll finish this tomorrow and then properly wrap up. And I'm gonna like total up how many pages I've read over the 24 hours as well, because I think that's probably more reflective of how much I can read in 24 hours than the number of books, because obviously when you take into account sort of like page numbers and things, yeah, the number of books could mean anything. But yeah, this has been a ride. This has been very enjoyable. I will reflect better on this tomorrow. But yeah, I just wanted to very quickly check in and be like, made it to 24 hours. This book. What is incredible is that I'm on page 261 out of 340, and it is exactly 340 pages. And this book is entirely set up, and I don't care. I'm having a really good time. There's no good guys in this book. I think that's also what I'm really enjoying, is that both Eli and Victor realistically are antagonists. You could go so far as to say villains. Eli is definitely a villain in my eyes. But complicated. I think that's what also like really is happening, is working really well. Her character work has been so well because the characters are nuanced and complicated. Like I say, Eli is definitely the villain, but he thinks he's the hero. So he's not setting out to... he doesn't deliberately want to be a bad guy. He's not like trying to take over the world or anything. It's just he's doing a lot of really bad shit. But he thinks he's doing it for the greater good. Which, you know, like for me, ultimately, I think that's some of the most dangerous thinking you can have. And then you've got Victor, who... Victor doesn't think of himself as a hero. He doesn't think of himself as a good guy. He's had to be reassured. No, he's not had to be reassured, but people around him have had to reassure themselves that Victor's not a bad guy. It's just that he does bad stuff to try and counteract the other bad stuff. Like, he is very much, he fights fire with fire. He doesn't necessarily believe that two wrongs make a right, but he will respond to violence with more violence, in a way. He's an anti-hero. He's an anti-vigilant.
But he's not an anti-vigilant because he's only after one guy. He's just out for revenge right now. Um, and I think why we're properly rooting for him right now is because we're seeing what Eli has done and become. So we're like, yeah, you gotta go after him because Eli is a bad guy. And that's why we're rooting for Victor. Not because Victor's a good guy, but because he's going after the bad guy. This is so well done. This is really well done. Yeah, I'm curious to see where she's going to end us off because this is a duology. I'm fairly certain this is the first book in a duology. I keep doing this to myself in this vlog. This is like the third book where it's like, now I need to get my hands on the second one. With any luck, my library, I will also check, with any luck, my library will have Villainous in so that I don't have to rush out and buy it now. But yeah, because this entire book until now has been so it's in two parts, and part one is entirely backstory in this lead up, both sort of like from 10 years ago and from a week ago, how we made it to now, to here. And then part two, it's very much almost entirely, with the exception, we're getting side characters' backstory and how they came to be where they are. But for the most part, it's all set now in like the space of one day, and we're leading up to midnight. And I have a feeling the book is going to end at midnight, but midnight is when the story is really going to start. So I am fully expecting and anticipating a cliffhanger, and I'm going to be very shocked. I'd be very shocked if it's not a cliffhanger. Which means I'm going to really want to get my hands on book 2. Oh man, I've already got I think I've got something like 4 or 5 different holds on at the library. One is available, which is the latest Beth O'Leary. But I'm in a different position in the queue for all of them. And I can see they're all going to come in at the same time, aren't they? I'm going to have to do like a specific... No, I'm not going to do a library vlog because that's... Library books are time sensitive, and we don't do time sensitive vlogs anymore because they're just not going to happen. But yeah, obviously I am rambling now and going off on a bit of a tangent, so I'm going to stop there, and I will chat to you guys tomorrow with what in theory will be my last update. Good luck featuring me editing this because this has been a mammoth of a vlog. If anyone is still watching at this point, kudos. Like, how have you managed to hang in there? Because I don't shut up. But on that point, I am going to shut up now, and I will see you tomorrow for me in like less than a second for you. Well, here we are. We made it. 5 complete books. It has been a journey. This has honestly been a journey. But I finished Vicious. I actually finished it last night. The last 80 so pages took me about an hour. So what I have in my hands is 5 books, which amounts to about 25 hours worth of reading. And that is something to wrap your head around, I think. Personally, I think, like, for me, this is something to wrap my head around. Yeah, I have no more update on Vicious other than I finished it and immediately was on my library app in an effort to not buy the book. To spare my TBR, I was immediately on the library app. And thankfully my library does have a copy of Vengeful, which is the sequel, and it is ordered. No one else... There is a copy available, so in theory it should be coming straight to me. It is, however, in Thurso. And let's just say books move between the Highland libraries at a Highland pace. So I might get it next week, it might be a couple of weeks away, who knows. I have also ordered Two Twisted Crowns, which is the follow-up to One Dark Window from the library. I am third in the queue for that one, so who knows when I'll get that. But I'm quite grateful that the two books that I read book one of that have sequels, my library has. So I can go out and I can buy them. No, I can read them and then decide if the follow-up is worth me purchasing before I read them. Yay! This definitely feels like a win because it's not often that my library has a copy of the book that I want. They're definitely getting better, especially with the sci-fi fantasy picks, but you know, it's still the Highlands. Choices can still sometimes be limited. But yeah, that was it. I've had a lot of fun doing this. It has been, like I said, it's been a journey. Is it a journey? I don't know if journey is the right word, but it's been an experience. Yeah. Would absolutely do this again. Would be curious to see how much I could get through, especially so with the exception of Vicious and One Dark Window, which Laura and Rachel picked. No, they did not. They picked Vicious and Till Death Do Us Part. So One Dark Window, The Rest of Us Just Live Here, and Check and Mate. I deliberately picked those because I was fairly confident they were going to be quick, easy reads. I'd be curious to see how much I would get read if it was sort of like completely random. I could do like a random number generator or something on my TBR, or you know, if I was picking maybe like focusing specifically on like epic fantasy or something, on books that are not as quick and easy, I'd be curious to see how much I read that way. Yeah, I'm not sure when I would do this again, just because it was intense. Like in the last, especially the first 3 books, because I read 3 books in 3 days, and that was intense. So it's not something I'm going to do super regularly, but maybe once or twice a year, maybe 2-3 times a year. Like, I would be up for doing an iteration of this again. So if you guys have been, okay, if you've made it this far, well done. Like, kudos, because I didn't know I was going to make it this far. So if you've made it this far, super kudos. But train of thought. There was a thought on this. But yes, no, if you have any thoughts of like how you would like to see this evolve or iteration of this, just pop them in the comments, let me know. Going on from this, because I have chipped 5 physical books off my TBR. Like, I just want to sit and hug them because, oh my gosh, look at that, look at that, look at that shelf space. Not on my physical TBR upstairs. It's great. And I get to put them on those shelves. But in the vein of sort of like tackling my TBR and chipping that number down, I am going to expect to see sporadically in the future vlogs dedicated to specifically reading books that I already physically own. They're not all going to be like this. They're not all going to have as much as 5 books. They're going to be just a bit all over the place, a bit of everything. I want to do a return to reading the books that my friends have recommended, so I've already got a couple lined up for those. The next one I want to do is reading the biggest book I own, and it's a chunker. It is a very big chunky, and it is an epic fantasy. It is, however, a standalone. So I'll let you try and figure out which one that is. And if you can see when that video comes up at some point, you'll be able to see. Yeah. I've absolutely lost steam now, so I'm just gonna wrap this up here because I don't know what else to say other than I really enjoyed this experience. I would do it again. I really hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have, as always, hit that like button if you fancy. Subscribe if you're not already. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.